Gatfar, attorney of counsel to the Cochran firm. Mike Slater, radio talk show.
Author of the article, Dr. Drew. Let's not take away from that. And I agree with Ariva. There's no criminal liability at this point.
Wait, look at the author, meaning Sean Penn.
Sean Penn, correct.
What do you want us to look at?
Well, I mean, you're basically giving this drug kingpin, a murderer, a platform that he doesn't deserve. You're giving him the celebrity status, the limelight that he's craving. He was telling people that he thought they should make a movie out of his life.
Because oh shucks, he was just a farmer that was meeting the demands of the U.S. marketplace. Those U.S. citizens and their damn drug problems. What are you going to do?
Right? Talk about a narcissist.
Oh, no. Listen, Sean's the narcissist. This guy's a sociopath.
No, sociopath.
It takes half the article before Sean Penn ever mentions El Chapo. Speaking of difference between...
There's no redeeming value in the article. I read it. I think there's no redeeming value, and I agree with you that look at Rolling Stone. I mean, look at their history of putting the Boston bomber on the cover, glamorizing him, and then there was that article they wrote about this alleged gang rape at U of A, which was completely false. It was essentially a work of fiction. So I think this really is about Rolling Stone magazine trying to get publicity, trying to sell magazines more than anything else.
And undermining their legitimacy is what you're saying.
They've undermined the legitimacy.
You guys
100%.
Think about it. We live in a time if they sell papers, Jim, they sell magazines.
People in Mexico share that sentiment, actually.
Well, because
they are calling him a Robin Hood. They are saying, you know, our government is so corrupt, at least he's helping build roads. He's helping give money to people who are ill that don't have money. But I think it's just a
But he's the one corrupting the government. He's the one using those billions of dollars to pay off these companies and these soldiers and these politicians. He's causing it.
Oh, God.
Here's the journalistic integrity here. Rolling Stone magazine allowed El Chapo to have final say in what's published. They say he didn't change anything, that, you know, the article stands as the way it was written, but the mere fact that they gave him that option just destroys any credibility, in my opinion.
Anahita, your colleague, defense attorney Mark Garagos, told the entertainment website Wrap.com that if there is a reward for El Chapo's capture, Sean Penn may be the one.
That they do want to extradite him. The Mexican government has indicated that they do want to work with the United States government, but that it will take some time, and that is because there are going to be numerous appeals.
Why wouldn't they want to prosecute him down there?
I think...
I'm not sure I got that.
Of course not. He's saying if I wasn't dealing these drugs, somebody else would be dealing drugs. And really, to me, this seems like an editorial piece more than actually like a journalistic piece, because you're learning a lot more about the author's viewpoints and ideologies than you are about El Chapo.
Little more. Sean asked if El Chapo thinks in our system.
It's not a defense, but it is used as a mitigating factor. And I think there is some truth, if anything, to what El Chapo said there about what's going on in that country, what's going on with the government. And we'd be hypocritical to say that we in this government don't use someone's upbringing and someone's, you know, perhaps poor upbringing as a factor when we're dealing with criminal defendants.
Up when we get to a
Dennis feels about Sean Penn doing this. I really am.
I'm sure they'd be really good buddies, right? Right. Because again, I think it's more about them than it is the cause or learning the truth or actually finding out what's going on with El Chapo. And I agree. I think Dennis Rodman and Sean Penn probably have a lot in common from a mental
think about that.
Right?
I'm wanting to say something bigger about the word. It's like art imitating life, like getting involved in really the complexities of war and international relations.
Because only
drug
he
trafficking.
can understand it. Only Sean Penn can understand the inner dealings of El Chapo, right? Only Dennis Rodman. It's ridiculous. Like I said, it's more about, I think, his own opinions than it is about anything that has to do with real journalism.
I want to throw to you, Dr. Drew.
Is the one.
Yeah, I think that's just one of the arguments the defense attorney is making, and I think it's great that Avery has retained this attorney because she has a track record of getting these convicted defendants exonerated. And she's come out and she said there is new evidence, and I think, frankly, his only hope at this point is if there is new evidence. Now, she hasn't said what that evidence is, but I have read that they are trying to develop some type of test that can determine whether or not the blood evidence that was found was in fact taken from the vial that was in police custody. And I can tell you, if they're able to develop that test, if the judge allows that in as evidence, then I think that he has a good chance here.
Well, that's already been done by the FBI. Now, I don't know if the test that the FBI did on it was Now, there may come up with a test that actually has a lower threshold and could detect smaller amounts of EDTA.
Wasn't the prosecution, though, by the judge's ruling, prevented from rebutting that testimony? It was my understanding that they weren't allowed to present their rebuttal to that testimony.
No, the prosecution called them as...
I mean, the defense. I'm sorry, the defense.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
You're looking at a purple top tube here, and those purple top tubes the system.
And a constitutional
do you want to
trial.
respond?
I agree that whether or not you believe he did it or did not do it, that he should have been acquitted because there was a ton of reasonable doubt. But I want to touch upon the judge's ruling by not allowing the defense attorneys to argue that perhaps the killer could have been somebody else.
They alluded to other people. They alluded to lots of other
The
people.
judge excluded them from making that argument, Dr. Drew, and I can tell you as a defense attorney, that is a very common argument a defense attorney not only is allowed to make, you're almost compelled to make that argument for your client at trial. So this is one of those rulings that I found so perplexing in this case, because as a defense attorney, we talked about this before, your ethical duty to your client is to be able to raise anything that could possibly give rise to reasonable doubt. But the judge precluded them from arguing, hey, it could have been somebody else.
Jim, you want to say something?
I agree. I mean,
Him to do their PR. The prosecution team, I already said that, Dr. Drew. They should hire
You
the
got
prosecution
emails, people
team.
thanking you. I got.
exactly. That should never happen. They
about
did
the
it over
fact-
and over and over again.
How about, you don't even get to that, Dr. Drew. How about the fact that after 2 words out of this child's mouth, it would be clear to anybody, you don't need an expert, that he did not understand what was going on. He didn't
Yes.
understand what he was saying. And you're right, nothing angers me more about this documentary than what happened to Brendan. He's 16 years old. He clearly is mentally, challenged in this case. And then these are a series of the most coerced confessions I've seen in my entire career. And then you look at the fact that his own defense attorney, who's there to supposedly look out for him, defend him, also throws him under the bus because one of those confessions was at the hands of the defense attorney's own private investigator. So it's just mind-boggling that the judge, which you just showed on the screen right now, ruled none of those confessions were coerced. They were all admissible. That's yet another ruling that you really have to question yourself. What was this judge thinking, and were these parties all colluding?
In my mind, the detectives that
Investigators were interrogating him. I disagree with you. And he's saying, well, yeah, I did it. Well, no, I didn't do it. And by the way, I have class in an hour. I mean, does that take an expert to realize
But I
this
don't
kid
agree
should
with
be
you. I don't
evaluated?
agree with you.
There's been
Anahita.
no talk.
I agree with Jim on this.
Yeah, there's just been no talk. Let me just quickly finish. Has he been evaluated? Has he had a mental eval?
I know.
No, they didn't
We
do
haven't
those
heard
things.
about this.
Well, maybe they
but
did.
I
We
don't
don't know because we're watching a documentary. I don't know. The attorneys, I don't know if you two agree with this or not, always tell me that in spite of the shortfalls of our system, they generally kind of get it right. That's what you guys always say.
I think they
right,
do,
and
and
it's
you
a
have
good
to
system.
right. It's the best system in the world. I said this on your show last week, but it has flaws. And I think one takeaway from this, regardless of your thoughts on his guilt or innocence, is that our system is flawed. There are coerced confessions, there are false confessions, and there are even people who give false confessions that oftentimes start believing their confession.
Jim, I'll let you comment on this. We got to take a break. Be right back.
Social media, people love them.
Sex symbol. His defense attorney has become an
Now Drew's the sex symbol. There he is,
Of
Dr.
course,
Drew.
the #1 sex symbol. Of course.
Come after me, the mob.
Need not
All right.
say